Howdy. So, it's been a while since I've done this, but I have a segment called Sylvie Answering Interesting Questions. And I came upon this question on Reddit a little while ago, and I think it's interesting. So this woman who identified herself as being very small, I think she said she was like 104 pounds or something like this, is sparring at her gym somewhere in the West. This was in English on Reddit. And sparring men in her gym who are significantly bigger than her. And so she was confused when her coach kept telling her to take the heat out, I think is what he was saying. Take the heat out of her sparring. And she took this to mean take the power down. And she was confused about this because she's so small. She's like, I can't hurt these people. Like, I'm so much smaller than everybody. I can't hurt them. Why am I getting yelled at to take the heat down? Take the heat out, whatever it was. And this is why I think this is interesting, is that A1, at 104 pounds, you can hurt people. You're not going to be knocking a 200-pound guy out, but when you hit with full power, it still hurts, like it doesn't feel good. But the part about taking the fire out and why the coach was telling her to take it down is an energy thing. And the way I thought to explain this that people might understand is when Kevin and I lived in New York, there were like dog parks. They're called dog runs in the East. Where I'm from in Colorado, they're called dog parks. But it's basically you bring your dog and you let them like run around in a like chain link fenced area. And where we went, there was a small dog area and anything that's not a small dog area that like the bigger dogs would go to. And the reason you don't put a small dog in with the big dogs and then be like, what's the problem with my little dog going after these big dogs? He's not going to hurt them. Is that the energy of that little dog, if it irritates, incites, whatever, the big dogs, that is very dangerous for the small dog. And it's an energy thing. So I don't know, other than like Sanchai or someone with like incredible experience traveling the world, sparring, like having fun sparring all the time. Like when you watch the playful sparring between like Sanchai and I don't know, Singdam or something at Yokkao. It's very playful, it's very light. It looks like they're barely hitting each other. There's power in those strikes. Like that would not feel like nothing if you were actually in it. But the energy is very, very, very light. If you go hard, like if you're going 80, 90, 100%, you necessarily have a kind of energy coming off of you that comes from hitting that hard. Like I don't know that I've ever hit 100% power and not had a little bit of this like aggressive energy going. And that's the small dog energy thing. That's this little like demon chihuahua energy. And if that carries over to a bigger fighter, if they're feeling like you're being uncool, if they want you to take it down and you don't, and you're like, it's because I'm small, and they decide to take it up a little bit, they're going to hurt you. So the coach is seeing where the energy is, and the coach is like, take that out. This is why even if you're significantly smaller than your sparring partner, you still want to kind of match your percentage to whatever percentage your gym has agreed is the sparring power, right? So if you're supposed to go like 40% kind of thing, you, even if you're considerably smaller than your opponent, should still be going 40%. They might need to take it down to like 20% if they're really, really heavy, but you should not go above that 40% because the percentage is not only a power thing, but because it's power across the board of many different weights, it's mainly an energy thing. It's like keep your energy at 40%. You really can't be a total dick at 40%. It's kind of hard to do. And it's a little bit hard to not be a dick at 100%. When I'm clinching, usually, but sometimes sparring with Naksu, he doesn't outweigh me by that much. He outweighs me by maybe like 4 kilos. But he can go pretty hard. And when he starts getting tired, he starts taking it up. And there are times that he's hurt me by accident. And we just kind of laugh and we move on because it's like you can't fully control the trajectory or power of a flying, jumping move because you're flying through the air. And he doesn't mean to hurt me. Sometimes I'll throw something that's a little bit harder or lands more flush than I intended it to, and we kind of like acknowledge it together and move on. he can hit me with exactly that same power when he's tired and he wants it to stop, and he's kind of building up his energy a little bit, and I can feel that he's now trying to hurt me, and it riles me a little bit. I have experience, so what I do with that is I don't let him stop. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go another 10 minutes now because you're being a jerk about it. But that's because I can read this energy. I've spent so many years, because of my size, the people in my gym who I end up working with who are nearer to my size are teenage boys. Teenage boys are a whole emotional thing, a whole like energy control emotional thing that I've had to deal with, learn from, learn to work myself around over all these many years. And I don't think that people in the West have that kind of exposure. And I think when you're working with people who are older that you don't like, if you're small like me and you're in a gym in the West, you might also be working with like 15-year-old boys. This might be the exact same story. And it's very hard to deal with the energy of teenagers in sparring situations. And so perhaps even that example works really well if you don't get the small dog, big dog park thing, is that sometimes teenagers, they might not have the power to throw as hard as someone who's like 150 pounds or like 170 pounds or something like that, but their energy is like, they're kind of emotional, like a toddler or something, and it's a little bit intense. So that's my answer to this question about why the less experienced person, the smaller person, the person who simply looking at it, blinking your eyes and looking at it, seems like this person has all the disadvantages. Why would you be focusing on that person? This is why you might be focusing on that person. It's because it's an energy thing. And because if that energy goes awry, it becomes the big person problem. Like if the small dog goes in the big dog park, riles up the other dogs and gets hurt, it's the husky's fault, you know? It's not the chihuahua's fault. So that's why. That's what I was thinking.